Welcome to the May 12th meeting of the Murfreesboro City Council. Councilmember Ron Washington has the prayer, but before we start the prayer, I think many of us have been in here, and it happened shortly before we started, but talking about answered prayers, the TBI found 9-year-old Carly Trent that everyone's been looking for, and so she's safe and sound, and so anyway, I think that's something to be thankful for.
Thank you.
Public and council, join me with a moment of silence, please. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bill's got the check. Good girl, outstanding. And the camera was not
Okay. Before we get started, we have a ceremonial item that we want to recognize a STARS recipient, and we'll turn the podium over to Mr. Godwin.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Murfreesboro City Council. I'm delighted and honored this evening to be able to present your next STARS Award participant for the city. This past month, our nomination committee chose from a group of 7 who were nominated employees, and this month's recipient is very deserving. Mr. Tony Burkhart is here this evening with his wife, Lisa. Welcome. And I'd like to read the explanation for the nomination before I turn it over to Mr. Gore for the presentation with Mayor McFarland. Tony was also nominated, incidentally, by his co-employee, Ken Sheets. While outperforming his duties in February, Tony came across an elderly citizen who had fallen while checking his mail and was bleeding from a head wound. Tony stopped and rendered aid to the citizen and called for an ambulance. He stayed with the gentleman until emergency services arrived to take the citizen to the hospital. We want to thank Tony, especially for his service to the city, and at this time I will turn it over to Mr. Gore.
Thank you, Glenn. Well, it's always a privilege to come before the council and recognize one of our own here from the department. Obviously, we love to be part of the city, but what I can say about Kenny is he always does the right thing, and he cares about people. And when you have that combination in an employee, you can't ask for anything else. He's always there. He's always willing to go above and beyond. And when you care about each other, we've talked about this, you develop trust. And when you have trust, you actually extend yourself and go beyond what you normally do, which in this case, obviously, Kenny did. So I want to thank him for rendering aid to the citizen out there. And Mayor, you may want to.
Yeah, no, it never ceases to amaze me, and I think I can speak on behalf of the council members that, you know, we always hear these stories, but it's good to put a face with a name, because there's not a month that goes by, whether it's a police officer playing ball at one of our hotels with someone, or whether it's a firefighter that save someone in a burning car, that you guys do phenomenal jobs. And so I want to say thank you, but also say thank you to the family members who, work. We spend more time with our work family than we just about sometimes do with our home family. And we want to say thank you for sharing your family with us, and appreciate what you do. So congratulations. I think, Darren, we're going to have to get a Murfreesboro Water and Sewer Award STARS, because we need to start keeping up. I think this is their 3rd or 4th STARS award that they've won. So.
Okay, give me back that. All right, other side of Shane.
Ready? Here we go. That's good.
All right, great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Lisa.
It's my 15 minutes of fame.
No. Okay. I'm going to adjourn the meeting. A great night. That's a good place to stop. So. Consent agenda. You have 5 items in front of you, or 5 different segments.
Mayor, if there are no comments, I will move for approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion and second. Ms. Wright, if you'll call the roll.
Ms. Scales Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance. Mr. Shacklet. Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Washington.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Young.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. We'll move into third readings and consider for passage on third and final reading ordinance 16017, amending Chapter 4 alcoholic beverages, including liquor, wine, and beer.
Move for approval on third reading.
Second.
Motion and second. Ms. Wright?
Ms. Scales Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance. Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Washington. Vice Mayor Young.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye.
So who can yell the loudest?
Item 3, consider for passage on third and final reading ordinance 16018, amending the 2015-2016 budget, and this is the Fourth Amendment.
So moved.
Motion is second. Ms. Wright?
Ms. Scales Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet. Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Washington.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Young.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. Consider for passage on third and final reading ordinance 16-010 to rezone an area at 1710 East Northfield Boulevard to residential multifamily 16 district, 2016-409. Motion is second. Ms. Wright?
Ms. Scales Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance. Mr. Shacklet. Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Washington.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Young.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. Consider for passage on third and final reading ordinance 16-011 to rezone an area along Conference Center Boulevard and Avenue Way to Planned Residential Development, PRD District, Vasari Lofts, 2016-411. Motion. Have a motion?
Second.
And we have a second now.
Ms. Scales Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet. Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Washington.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Young.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. We'll consider for passage on third and final reading ordinance 16-012 to rezone an area in Liberty Cove subdivision to single-family residential 10 RS10 district and single-family residential 15 RS15 district, 2016-410.
Move for passage on third and final reading.
Motion is second. Ms. Wright?
Ms. Scales Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet. Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Washington.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Young.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. Consider for passage on third and final reading ordinance 16-014 to zone an area located west of Manchester Pike as light industrial LI district, 2016-408.
Second.
Motion is second. Ms. Wright?
Ms. Scales Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance. Mr. Shacklet. Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Washington.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Young.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. We'll now consider for passage on third and final reading ordinance 16-015 to zone an area along New Salem Highway as commercial fringe CF district and residential multifamily 16 RM16 district, 2016-407.
So moved.
Motion is second. Ms. Wright?
Ms. Scales Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance. Mr. Shacklet. Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Washington.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Young.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. Consider for passage on second reading ordinance 16-009 to zone approximately 16.5 acres as planned residential development PRD district and rezone approximately 16.5 acres as planned residential development PR district RD district located along West Thompson Lane, 2015-431.
Move for approval.
Motion is second. Ms. Wright?
Ms. Scales Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance. Mr. Shacklet. Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Washington. Vice Mayor Young.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. Consider for passage on second reading ordinance 16-013 to zone an area along Blackman Road and Florence Road as planned residential development PRD district Shelton Springs, 2016-406.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and second. Ms. Wright?
Ms. Gels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance. Mr. Shacklet. Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Washington. Vice Mayor Young.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. Consider for passage on second and final reading ordinance 16022, amending Chapter 33 Water and Sewers, Section 33.1 of the Murfreesboro City Code, dealing with minimum monthly water charges and minimum monthly sewer charges.
Second.
Is there a PowerPoint?
I don't, it probably wouldn't work.
Second reading the PowerPoint. Somebody say PowerPoint. Second reading PowerPoint.
I have a motion and a second, Ms. Wright.
Ms. Gels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet. Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Washington.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Young.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. Under new business, we have approval of certificates of compliance for wine and retail stores. We'll do the same as last week. We'll read all of them off. If you want one of them pulled off, please let me know. I'll pull it off. But we have Walmart 416, 140 Joby Jackson Parkway, Walmart 2557, 2012 Memorial Boulevard, and Walmart 5182, 2478 New Salem Highway.
No deletions. I'll move for approval. Second.
Motion second.
Ms. Gels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet. Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Washington.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Young.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. Pursuant to Resolution 16-OR-16 adopted by the City Council on April 7, 2016, we'll conduct a public hearing to consider the formation of a sanitary sewer special assessment district known as the South Church Street No. 1 Sanitary Sewer Special Assessment District. Notice of the said public hearing was published in April 25, 2016 issue of a local newspaper.
Mayor, City Council, thank you for the opportunity. We reviewed this back in April. I just wanted to refresh your memory prior to the public hearing. This is a 32.6 acre area to the west of Shelbyville Highway, US 231, right across from Joe B. Jackson Parkway. We have let a bid to construct sewer to that location, and as such, to recoup that expenditure, we have set up this special assessment sewer district. The cost is $10,600 per acre. However, if you elect to build within the first 6 months after the completion of the project, there's the discounted per acre cost of $8,830. But I wanted to bring this to your attention again and just give a quick summary prior to the public hearing. I am available for any questions, should anyone have some.
Any questions?
Really want to think of something.
Okay, seeing none, we'll conduct a public hearing for this issue. Anyone wishing to speak for or against, please come to the podium. If you'll address your comments to the council, if you have 3 minutes if you're an individual, 5 minutes if you're representing a group, and we will get answers at the end of the public hearing. Public hearing is now open. Seeing no one wishing to speak, we'll close the public hearing, and we'll now reconsider for passage on third and final reading ordinance 16016, amending Chapter 33 of the Murfreesboro City Code by creating 33214, establishing a sanitary sewer district special assessment district to be known as the South Church Street No. 1 Sanitary Sewer Special Assessment District.
Move for approval.
Motion is second.
Ms. Gels Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet. Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Washington. Vice Mayor Young.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. We'll now consider a request of the city manager to schedule dates for the 2016-2017 budget review and public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor, members of City Council. It is time to set our dates to review your city budget. That is on a revised memo in front of you. That would be Thursday, May 19th for budget review, 4 p.m. in the City Council. That's typically when we give an overview, handle the outside agencies, and then review several city departments. The next date would be Wednesday, May 25th at 4 p.m. to finish up the remaining city departments.
What was the first date, Mr. Lyons?
It would be May 19th.
Okay. What time?
Typically, we've been able to make our way through budget review in 2 sessions, but we've always allocated a third session just in case there's some last-minute items. That would be on Thursday, June 2nd, and you would have your budget public hearing later that same evening. My office has checked with you all. These dates appeared to be conflict-free, so I would ask for your approval. I would say that the budgets will be, general fund budgets will be delivered to your residence on Sunday. It's going to the printer in the morning.
And so we have the 19th and the 26th, is that correct?
25th,
25th.
Wednesday the 25th. Yes, sir.
Motion is second, Ms. Wright.
Ms. Scales Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance. Mr. Shacklet. Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Washington.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Young.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. We have board and commission appointments. We have appointment to the Historic Bottoms Study Steering Committee, reappointment to the Cable TV Commission, and reappointment to the Public Building Authority. And I don't. Where, Mr. Lyons, just so I make sure, where are those? I didn't. Sorry. Oh. Okay. Yeah, so Mr. Boffman had wanted to join the Bottoms, and Roger Heinrich is reappointment. He's the MTSU representative. And then the Public Building Authority, although it has not been active in quite some time, we were going through and cleaning up the expiration dates. Sorry, Ms. Machado.
Move for approval, reapproval, and the cleanup.
A, B, and C. Second.
Ms. Wright, for call the roll.
Ms. Scales Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance. Mr. Shacklet. Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Washington.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Young.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. Any beer permits?
Yes, sir, there are a few tonight. We have a special event permit from the Chamber for an event to take place on August 9th, another on November 1st, and a final one on December 13th. We have 2 new locations for beer. Both of these are on our square. One is a restaurant nightclub bar, and the other is an arcade. And these applications are in order pending completion of the building and code inspections. We would issue that permit once those are complete if you approve it tonight.
Motion. Move for approval.
Second.
Motion is second, Ms. Wright.
Ms. Scales Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet. Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Washington.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Young.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. Any statements, Ms. Wright?
Not tonight.
Okay. Any other business to come before the City Council?
Mayor, I would like for the council to entertain a motion tonight that we bring to a close the study to determine the appraised value of the Murfreesboro Electric Department.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Ms. Wright, will call the roll. I'm sorry.
Just a question, what are we saying now? What is the?
Bring to a close the study to determine the appraised value of the Murfreesboro Electric Department. So basically, to stop the studying of the appraised value. And basically, we heard a presentation at a meeting prior to this one, and now that we've studied it and that has confirmed basically, I think, what we felt like we knew as far as the value of the department, that I would like to put closure to that segment of the process, and we'll move on to whatever process may take place after that.
Ms. Wright, you have a motion and a second.
Ms. Scales Harris.
Aye.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet. Mr. Smotherman?
Aye.
Mr. Washington?
Abstain.
Vice Mayor Young?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye. Any other business to come from the staff or city council? Would like to let the city council know that it's been publicized here this week, but the statewide arts conference is being held in Murfreesboro this year. So that's going to start on June the 7th. Is that right? Yeah. And so it's going to be go along with the art crawl. It's going to be at Civic Plaza, several different events, some at Patterson Park. So it's going to be a cool event.
It's statewide also.
Yeah,
They're
statewide.
expecting a lot of,
And I want to thank publicly Miss Andrea Lowry, who is on that commission and was instrumental on coming and bringing that to the city and allowing us to help participate in that. So, all right. Any other business from staff? City council? All right. Seeing none, we'll stand adjourned.